Welcome to Starbucks. How are you today?
Good. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Please, be awesome. What's up, everyone? Welcome back. I'm McLain, and I'm a music producer. So, you saw my video yesterday. I posted and talked about why I haven't been posting reactions. And it has to do with everything kind of getting blocked and just copyright issues and stuff like that. So, as I'm sitting there after I posted it, I was just kind of trying to think and come up with a way that I can still get good content out to you guys. And I realized I can totally just do the reviews without the actual content. So what I'm going to do is I just listened to Taylor Swift's entire brand new album, Evermore, that she released last night. I took a bunch of notes on it, and I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about the notes that I took. If you do want to see my reaction, though, I am going to post one next week on my Patreon. So I'll start kind of uploading those over there and do these here, just because I don't get blocked over there. You know, it's a little bit easier. But I don't know, this is kind of exciting. I'm pretty excited about it. It's gonna be fun. So let's jump in, let's talk about it. Evermore is definitely the sister album to Folklore. Like, wow, it's almost identical, but to me, it was a little bit more pop oriented in that, like, some of the methods used and some of her melodies and structures were a little bit more similar to her pop stuff. You know, like what you would hear on 1989 or Reputation or Lover, you know? It's actually kind of interesting because as I was sitting there listening to the album, something that I realized and what kind of brought that on was that everything almost sounded like the demos that she would send in to like the label prior to the label saying, okay, let's get a producer, let's start making it into tracks. It almost feels like that. It's just very raw. Everything is very undercooked, but not in a bad way. It's almost charming, you know? It's a very charming thing. And I think she is one of the very few artists that can actually do that and pull it off, where everything just feels, again, almost just incredibly stripped down and almost, it's not too raw, but it's almost there. You know, there are some things you can just tell, like, that a producer like myself would come in and maybe change a little bit, like some of her words. I know there was one of the lyrics, it was like ringing in your pocket, or no, it was like ringing something. But anyways, like, it almost sounded like it needed to have ringing in, and ringing in wasn't there, it was just ringing. But it kind of would have brought the phonetic forward a little bit more and just sort of given it a little bit more flow, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know, I think the album is fantastic. It's just got kind of like a nice, calm feel to it. It's very, very, very similar to Folklore. I can see she probably wrote everything all in one go. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't realize this, but whenever you do write an album, and these artists write their albums, they write tons of songs, and they just pick the best out of those. You know, they pick their top 10, but they're writing songs left, right, and center. Tons of demos, just a lot going on, but nobody really ever releases it unless you're like Zayn Malik, who releases like 30 song albums, which is crazy. It just depends. You know, it just depends on how attached you are to each one of the songs, which ones you think are, you know, the most consistent with the entire album in its entirety. And for her, it feels like a continuation of Folklore, and it's pretty cool. I could see why she split it up into two, though, because I feel like it would almost be overwhelming to have that many songs all in one album with that vibe, because the vibe is so chill, it's so calm, that you would almost get too lost, and a lot of the good, like the gems would end up getting lost. You know, you can almost compare it to like mixing. Whenever you have a ton of instruments, just say you had 100 instruments all in one song, and there's one in particular that's playing an amazing part, you're never really going to pay 100% attention to that one thing because there's so much going on. That's probably not the best analogy, but you get what I'm saying. Like, some of the best songs probably wouldn't stick out as much if there were that many songs on the album, which is why I'm always a candidate for shorter albums, you know, like 10 songs max, or actually, let's go with like 13 songs max, you know. But I think she did this right. I think it was a brilliant idea, and she timed it perfectly to release two things. Like, it'll be interesting to see how well she fares in the award shows this year, because releasing a double back-to-back album like that, or back-to-back albums, I can almost guarantee you also that she'll end up putting everything sort of together all into one sort of set. We'll see what she ends up doing. It'll be pretty cool. I'm excited. So in terms of mixing on this album, something that I noticed, and it was similar to Folklore, but again, this was one of the differences that I kind of came across. Everything was incredibly warm, very soft feeling, and generally, like, each song only featured one primary instrument, like a piano, but it was still soft, or a guitar, like an electric that was very soft, or an acoustic guitar. And it accentuates her vocal a little bit. It also gives her the ability to refrain from having to jump up octaves or be extremely dynamic with what she's singing, which is it's very useful, especially if you're going on tour and stuff like that. You don't wear out your vocals very much. That's why folk kind of just stays right here, you know, and those artists stick around for a very long time because they never really wear out their voice. It kind of stays in the same place, you know, range-wise, but like over the course of their albums. But anyways, I think, I don't know, like in terms of the minimalistic thing, it just accents her vocal. Also, I hope you guys don't mind where I am. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do it in my car. I got some Starbucks, so all that being said, I've got to say my favorite of all of the songs was probably No Body, No Crime, just because it had a little bit more dynamic to it. So it wasn't just kind of this sort of straight across, because a lot of the songs end up sort of flowing into one another, and that was just kind of a nice break on the album from everything else. It was almost like Betty on Folklore. You know, it feels good to go there for a few and then come back to what everything else kind of feels and sounds like. But the interesting thing about No Body, No Crime were it was the lyrics. They were very country, they were very descriptive, which is what I mean by country. In country music, generally you overly describe everything. Think about, was it Carrie Underwood? Yeah, I took a Louisville Slugger to both headlights. Like, being that specific with exactly what you're doing and exactly what you're using. A Louisville Slugger to both headlights, you know? It's very, very, very overly specific. And that's actually why a lot of country music isn't used in things like movies and stuff like that, because they're almost mini movies in and of themselves. So you'd probably never hear a song like No Body, No Crime in a movie or in like a TV show or anything like that, because it's too overly specific, you know? It's difficult to find the right situation for that, you know, the right scene for it. But that's kind of what I liked about it. It set it apart from a lot of the other songs and a lot of the ways that modern music has started to showcase lyrics, you know, because you almost avoid that for the most part, because everybody wants to be placed, everybody wants to make sure they're making the most money off of their music. But this one, No Body, No Crime, went into full detail with a story, talked about every little detail behind it. It was just cool. And her other songs actually do that as well, but it shows her country roots just a little bit, which is, again, why I loved it. I think she should actually, for her next album, potentially go back and revisit some of that old flair just a bit. It'd be pretty cool, and then she could always come back into pop and it would be huge for her. But anyways, guys, all that being said, I think the album is absolutely amazing. It was a perfect follow-up from Folklore, and if you haven't listened to it yet, go check it out. Again, if you want to see my reaction to it, next week I'll be posting it on the Patreon. It actually won't be so much of a reaction as it is I'm going to go through and pick out all of my favorite parts and explain why I think those were the coolest things on the album and why they work so well. So I'm going to go a little bit more into depth with that kind of stuff. So if you want to check it out, again, link down in the description. And that's pretty much everything. So till next time, I'll catch y'all later.